It's strange how the scariest things don't happen in haunted houses or abandoned forests. They happen somewhere familiar, under your bed, inside your walls, in the room you thought you were alone in. Tonight, these aren't legends. They aren't myths. They're stories from people who lived through them. And if you listen closely, you might start recognizing the sounds in your house. Story 1. The Thing in the Crawlspace. I didn't even know my house had a crawlspace. I really found it by accident. It was 2:17 a.m. and I woke up to a scraping sound under my bed. It wasn't anything loud. Not really that dramatic. It was just a shh, shh, shh. It's a lot like cardboard dragging across concrete. At first, I thought it could be a mouse, or it was just pipes. What houses make noises, right? So I rolled over and tried to ignore it. But then it stopped, and I swear to God, something once from under me. Knock. I instantly froze. My bed doesn't have storage. There's nothing under it except the floor. I leaned over the side and checked with my phone flashlight. It was dust, shoes, nothing else. I laughed at myself and told myself I was being stupid, and then I went back to sleep. The next night, it happened again. It was the same time, 2:17 a.m. This time, it sounded closer. Scraping, like a slow, dragging breath. Like something pulling itself across dirt. I sat up immediately, my heart was racing, but I forced myself to check again. Flashlight under the bed, and nothing. But that's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The corner of the floorboard looked cracked, like it had been pried up. The next day, I moved the bed. There was a square cut out into the floor, a wooden panel with a tiny rusted ring candle. I had lived there for 2 years, and I had never seen it. I don't know why, but my stomach dropped. Like my brain already knew I shouldn't open it. But I did. When I lifted it, this smell came out. Wet, dirt, mold, something rotten. Underneath was darkness. Just a shallow dirt crawl space. Maybe 3 feet tall? Old houses sometimes have them, I guess. Still, why was the panel under my bed, and why did it look like it was recently opened? That night, I decided to stay awake. If something was making noise, I wanted to see it. The time changed to 2:16, and there was nothing. The clock slowly drifted to 2:17, then the scraping started. Directly under me. Slow. Intentional. Like something was circling. My bed actually vibrated a little. Then I heard it. Breathing. Right under the floorboards. Slow and wet and human. I held my breath to listen, and then a whisper. Right beneath me. Hello? My blood went cold. It sounded like me. My voice. Soft, raspy, like it hadn't been used in years. Can you help me? The voice said. I didn't move, and I didn't breathe. Please, let me out. It scratched at the wood, long fingernails dragging, slow and patient, like it knew I was there. And then it started copying me. When I swallowed, it swallowed. When I shifted, it shifted, like it could feel everything I did. Then it whispered again, switch with me. Something hit the panel from underneath hard. Dust shook loose from the boards, and I grabbed my phone and bolted out of the room, and I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, the panel was open, wide open. Dirt on my floor, handprints leading away from the hole toward my bed. But here's the worst part. There were footprints, too. Mine, walking from the bed down into the crawl space, like I climbed there while I was asleep, and never remembered. I nailed the panel shut, moved out 2 days later, haven't gone back. But sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I swear I still hear it, underneath me, scratching and waiting. Story 2. Someone was already in my apartment. When I unlocked my apartment door, the chain was already undone. I always use the chain. Always. It's muscle memory. So when I saw it hanging loose, I just stood there for a second and stared at the dangling chain, telling myself I just probably forgot, but I knew I didn't. Nothing looked wrong inside. The couch, the TV, the kitchen, everything was normal. It was really too normal. Like someone had cleaned. My coffee mug from that morning, it was gone. The dishes had been washed and the trash was taken out. I didn't even clean before work, ever. At first, I thought maybe my landlord entered for maintenance, but they're required to give notice, and no notes were left. So really I shrugged it off and figured maybe I was just tired. That night, I went to bed early, and around midnight, I woke up thirsty. I walked to the kitchen and opened the fridge and almost screamed. There was a sticky note on the milk. "Don't drink this. It's expired. I bought you a new one," the note said. There was a fresh gallon right next to it. I live alone, and I don't leave myself notes. And even if I did, who the hell says I bought you a new one? I checked every room, and closets, bathroom, balcony, and there was nothing. The doors were still locked, and the windows were still sealed. There was no sign of forced entry, and I convinced myself maybe it was some weird prank. Friends were messing with me, except I haven't given anyone else a key. The next few days got worse. My bed would be made when I came home, and my laundry would be folded with the dishes done, but never when I was there, only when I left. Like someone was waiting for me to go, like they didn't want to be seen. I set up my old laptop webcam facing the living room and left for work. I felt stupid doing it and even paranoid, but I was also sick to my stomach. When I checked the footage that night, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. At 11:42 a.m., the bathroom door opened, slowly from the inside. I hadn't been at home. I was at work. A man stepped out, thin and pale, with dirty clothes. His hair was matted like he hadn't showered in weeks. He moved like he knew the place, and he went straight to the sink, washed my dishes, and folded my laundry, and then he sat on the couch and watched my TV. It was like he lived there, like I was the guest. At one point, he picked up a framed photo of me and just stared at it with this weird smile on his face. Like he did something that made my stomach drop. He walked to my bedroom, crawled under my bed, and just stayed there for 3 hours, until 3:10 p.m., right before I normally get home. Then he crawled out, walked back into the bathroom, and shut the door. 5 minutes later, I unlocked the front door. In the video, completely unaware, he was still inside, watching and waiting. I didn't go home that night. I called the police. They searched everything, finally opened the bathroom vent. It led to a maintenance crawl space between apartments. Blankets, food wrappers, bottles. He'd been living in the walls for weeks, maybe even months. The officer asked me something I'll never forget. "Are you sure he only came out when you were gone?" Because under my bed, they found an impression in the dust. Fresh, like someone had been lying there recently. That morning while I slept. I don't live alone anymore. I never will again. Story 3. I took the night shift. I thought this job sounded easy. Nice security at an old hospital being renovated. You just sit and watch cameras and walk the halls every hour. Seemed like a pretty easy gig. Had good pay, it was quiet, and it was perfect. But that was one big mistake. The first night was really boring. It was just empty hallways and flickering lights. The place smelled like disinfectant and old metal. Rooms were stripped bare and beds were gone, but some stuff was still left behind. Things like wheelchairs, carts, and then random medical junk. That kind of place where every sound echoes too long. Around 1 a.m. I started my patrol. Flashlight, radio, simple Luke, everything normal. Until I passed room 214. The door was shut, and I knew it was open earlier. I checked every room at the start of the shift, and I remember 214 because the number was half ripped off. But now it was closed. All the way. I figured construction guys were probably moving something, so I opened it and then found it empty. Except the bathroom light was on. I turned it off and left and didn't think too much about it. Back in the security office, I checked the cameras, and that's when I saw something weird. Room's 214's light was on again. The bathroom was glowing, and I hadn't even been gone for 5 minutes. I rewound the footage and watched myself leave the room. Door shuts. Then, the bathroom light flips on by itself. There was no one inside, and there was no movement. It was just click, and then the light was on. I felt that cold prickle in my neck, but I told myself it was wiring. It's an old building, stuff like that happens. 2 a.m. patrol. Doors closed again, bathroom light on again. This time the mirror is fogged up like someone just took a hot shower. But the water's been turned off and no longer hooked up to the building. I wiped the mirror and something had written something on it. From the inside, 3 words. Stay with me. My reflection looked wrong, like it lagged a split second behind me, smiling when I wasn't, and I left out of there fast. Back in the office, all the cameras went static, and just for a second, then came back. But now, every hallway camera showed me, standing there, not moving, in every corridor. Same pace, same pose, and same stare. It was like copies of me, watching me. I looked down at myself, as I was still sitting in the chair, but on the screens, I was standing in the halls, smiling, slowly turning towards each camera, one by one. Then my radio crackled. My own voice came through. Found you. I didn't say anything back. Don't leave. Every monitor version of me started walking toward room 214, all at the same time, like they are being called, and the cameras died completely. They all went black, and it was just silent. I quit that night and didn't even finish the shift, but sometimes I still dream I'm still there, walking those halls, trying doors, looking for someone, whispering into a radio. And every time I pass room 214, the door opens and there's a chair inside, with someone sitting in it watching cameras, waiting for me to come back.